Hello and welcome to what I believe is on day 6 of belonging. I dreamed about my death. I was falling down a well and hit my head on a stone. Well, I said I was going to try reading some of these books, and I think that's what I will do today. Also, just try everything that's around. I will need to find all 4 parts. I currently have 3 instrument parts before I can play the instrument. It's been a couple days since I've last done one of these. I've had stuff to do. That's one of the reasons I'm recording episodes in advance and not once with every day. Draw. Click, draw. Just try this. Choose a color and a motif. White, red, and black, and they're all different depending on... Oh wait, and they combine. Oh, I kind of like that. The possible images that you can make, depending on what different colors you select, are different. Very interesting. I suppose if you only click one, you have the same images each time. If you click 2, you get different options. So it's just every combination is different, I guess. Alright. What do we draw? What do we draw? Got eternity. I like the concept of eternity because I know these are going to go up on the wall if I frame them. But I don't really think it would look good. I like contrast. We need some contrast. Which one of these do I want? Why is Moon so sad? Tragedy. Weeping Moon. Draw Weeping Moon. Ah. I have to wait. Like everything in this game, we have to wait. Good thing I have lots of paper. I can make as many of these very emo drawings as I want to. I can plaster my wall with them. Fantastic. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, a lot of sort of intellectual shit, you know. I've been listening to Sean Carroll's Mindscape podcast. I've been enjoying that. Recently got to one that is about basically the counterclaim to something I talked about a couple episodes ago. I talked about antinatalism, which is the idea that fewer people is generally better as opposed to having more people for a number of reasons. And so the counterclaim would be pronatalism, this idea that having more people is generally better. And the basic claim was that as population density increases, a lot of good comes out of that, including advances in technology and ideas and culture and all sorts of things like that. It's a very interesting counterpoint. I'm not entirely convinced by it, but I find some hope in the idea that I might be wrong and that the increase in population density is actually a good thing. Some of the reasons I'm not entirely convinced that it's a super good thing, and also the plain truth of the matter is things aren't just black and white, good or bad. It's complicated, but you see things where, like Japan, for instance, a nation that appears... I don't know numbers on this, so I might be bullshitting you, and you shouldn't take my word for things, but it certainly, as far as I know, high population density in Japan, and you have high suicide rates. Don't also quote that, but generally the culture seems to lots of suicide. You've got a suicide forest, for fuck's sake, where a YouTuber can walk in and find a corpse. And I don't know what that says, besides the fact that high density of population seems to, at least in this one case, equate to a higher like suicide culture. I know, just let's just slap culture on the end of words and say, yeah, suicide culture. I know it's kind of dumb to say that. This is a really kind of an ugly way to fill in a very pixelated drawing style of how. I wonder what the code is like for how this gets drawn in. If it's the same every time or if it's randomized somehow. Because it's certainly not the way a real person would draw, because it's drawing multiple places all at the same time. Unless he's got like a colored pencil, or no, he's using coal and chalk and stuff. He's got little pieces of coal and chalk in between each of his fingers, and he's just rubbing his hands all over the paper so that he can fill it in more quickly. I'm sure that's what he's doing. But that's not what it sounds. It sounds like they just took the sound of somebody drawing with a pencil and they looped that. But we're almost done here. We've almost got our beautiful crying blood weeping moon. Time goes by faster in the company of great art. This one deserves a special place on my wall. Yes, it does. It's beautiful. Look at that. Perfect. Wonderful. That's enough drawing for today, though. I always keep forgetting that I need to be looking at this time. Whatever. I wanted to read anyway. It doesn't matter how long that took. We're gonna probably at least get through a chapter of something. Oh no, before we sit down and read, I want to try lighting a fire. Let's try that. The king warned me that I should never leave these caves. I wonder what exactly he meant by that. That's intimidating. I thought this was the fire pit and not the way out. Let's hope this doesn't ruin everything. Make a fire. Make a fire. My fireplace. This room could use a little warmth from time to time. Yes, let's make a fire. I finally have enough flint. Full 10 out of 5. Lapis lazuli. Sulfur. Ooh, change color. Nice. Regular fire. Oh my god, that is a loud fire. There's an annoyingly loud fire. I don't know if I'm gonna do this in the future. I'm gonna just turn off the sound of the fire. Or maybe I can turn it down? No? Yeah, we are turning off the... Now, maybe you guys want the fire sound, and then I can just turn it down in post. Yeah, let's do that. Let's sit down and read. Let's try this. See what kind of books we have access to. If these books are just literally empty and we only have access to Moby Dick, because I think that is the default book, or if we got more. Nothing better than resting the weary body on a comforting armchair. Read a book. Choose a book to read. Thoughts, The Goose Girl, Thus Spoke Zarathustra 1, Moby Dick, Poems 2, Metamorphosis of the Six Swans. The only ones I know are Moby Dick and Metamorphosis. I don't know anything about these others, but I assume Thoughts is my own thoughts. The king told me to wait for 400 days. Then I should awaken him, and he will end all fear and longing. I wonder what will happen. At least my birthday will be a bit sooner. What do you mean, my birthday? Oh, my birthday's gotta be exactly 365 days from when he opened his hand. Was I born then, or was I born before then, and I was just hiding in his hand? I don't know. Do we have... Ooh. The king warned me that I should never leave these caves. I wonder what exactly he meant by that. I wish I could dream of another place. No, I don't want to idle read. I'd like to explore the caves, but I feel the presence of great darkness lurking somewhere. Okay, that is terrifying. I thought I was alone in here. Where is this darkness? Will I ever overcome it? I could really use a map of the kingdom. The cave is supposedly full of hidden places. I wonder when I'll have discovered every part of the cave. So far I haven't seen it. Crossed out! I have seen something. I have seen a little bit. There's a secret library somewhere in the kingdom. I could use some more books, so I'd very much like to find it. I really need to read more. My dream would be to find a book that never ends. I read about the halls of eternity, a place where time stands. I have learned that only a fool tries to reach the end of eternity. Since I have some spare time. Oh, by the way, I should say this before. I got up early today because there were supposed to be some workers coming, and I was supposed to meet them. And they haven't showed up, and it's been hours. And now I've got this loud fire in my ear, so I might miss them if they're here. So I should definitely turn off. And I should also go check to see if they're waiting around outside, like, he didn't let us in. One sec, I'll be right back. I'm keeping this in, by the way. Okay, there's nobody here. That's kind of what I expected. But I also thought that I'd start this particular session because, as you all know, when you start doing something, the thing you were waiting for automatically comes true. But that is not the case as for right now. Since I have some spare time while I'm waiting, I could try to make some use of it. After all, time goes by faster if you keep your mind occupied. My home is not comfortable enough for this long wait. I wish I had more colors for my art studies. It should be possible to find some different colored stones in the cave. I definitely need more pictures on my wall. Especially lice pictures. Okay, fair enough. We'll get some of those. A mattock would be a nice tool to have down here. I could try to enlarge my little home by hacking through the walls. There are crystals in many colors. I could harvest some of them and decorate my room. A bed would be a nice addition to my furniture. I could probably build one if I had the right materials. I could use some running water in my home. Not that I have any need for hygiene, I just like the sound. Luckily, I don't need to eat, but it would be nice to grow some pretty mushrooms. It is very lonely down here. From time to time, it would be nice to see another pair of eyes. Oh, I don't know about that. I'd really like to converse with someone. Anyone. Sometimes a beautiful melody is playing in my head. I wish I could play my favorite tune on my instrument to ease the pain of solitude. I should make a list of my failings. Maybe that will be a small accomplishment at least. I currently have 1. Disappointment, 2. Flint, 5. Coal, 4. Paper. Well, I can't think of anything else right now. I guess I will just continue waiting in the loneliness. I wonder if it automatically writes a new page once per day because it's been 5 days and there's 5 pages. I'd like that if that were the case. Which one will I read next? Should I just read them all in order? The Goose Girl, how many pages? Oh, it's only 12 pages. I can read this. There was once upon a time an old queen, whose husband had been dead for many, many years, and she had a beautiful daughter. When the princess grew up, she was betrothed to a prince who lived at a great distance. When the time came for her to be married, and she had to journey forth into the distant kingdom, the aged queen packed up for her many costly vessels of silver and gold, and trinkets also of gold and silver, and cups and jewels. In short, everything which appertained to a royal dowry, for she loved her child with all her heart. She likewise sent her maid in waiting, who was to ride with her, and hand her over to the bridegroom, and each had a horse for the journey. But the horse of the king's daughter was called Falada, and could speak. So when the hour of parting had come, the aged mother went into her bedroom, took a small knife, and cut her finger with it until it bled. Then she held a white handkerchief to it, which she let 3 drops of blood fall, gave it to her daughter, and said, "Dear child, preserve this carefully. It will be of service to you on your way." So they took a sorrowful leave of each other. The princess put the piece of cloth in her bosom, mounted her horse, and then went away to her bridegroom. After she had ridden for a while, she felt a burning thirst, and said to her waiting maid, "Dismount and take my cup, which thou hast brought with thee for me, and get me some water from the stream, for I should like to drink." "If you are thirsty," said the waiting maid, "get off your horse yourself, and lie down and drink out of the water. I don't choose to be your servant." So in her great thirst, the princess alighted, bent down over the water in the stream and drank, and was not allowed to drink out of the golden cup. Then she said, "Ah, heaven!" And the 3 drops of blood answered, "If thy mother knew this, her heart would break." But the king's daughter was humble, said nothing, and mounted her horse again. She rode some miles further, but the day was warm, the sun scorched her, and she was thirsty once more. And when they came to a stream of water, she again cried to her waiting maid, "Dismount and give me some water in my golden cup," for she had long ago forgotten the girl's ill words. But the waiting maid said still more haughtily, "If you wish to drink, drink as you can. I don't choose to be your maid." Then in her great thirst the king's daughter alighted, bent over the flowing stream, wept, and said, "Ah, heaven!" And the drops of blood again replied, "If thy mother knew this, her heart would break." And as she was thus drinking and leaning right over the stream, the handkerchief with the 3 drops of blood fell out of her bosom and floated away with the water without her observing it, so great was her trouble. The waiting maid, however, had seen it, and she rejoiced to think that she had now power over the bride, for since the princess had lost the drops of blood, she had become weak and powerless. Wait, so when was it established that the princess got some sort of superpowers from this bloody napkin? Whatever. So now, when she wanted to mount her horse again, the one that was called Falada, the waiting maid said, "Falada is more suitable for me, and my nag will do for thee." And the princess had to be content with that. Then the waiting maid, with many hard words, bade the princess exchange her royal apparel for her own shabby clothes. And at length she was compelled to swear by the clear sky above her that she would not say one word of this to anyone at the royal court. And if she had not taken this oath, she would have been killed on the spot. But Falada saw all this and observed it well. The waiting maid now mounted Falada, the true bride the bad horse, and thus they travelled onwards, until at length they entered the royal palace. There were great rejoicings over her arrival, and the prince sprang forward to meet her, lifted the waiting maid from her horse, and thought she was his consort. She was conducted upstairs, but the real princess was left standing below. Then the old king looked out of the window, and saw her standing in the courtyard, and how dainty and delicate and beautiful she was, and instantly went to the royal apartment, and asked the bride about the girl she had with her, who was standing down below in the courtyard, and who she was. "I picked her up on my way for a companion. Give the girl something to work at, that she may not stand idle." But the old king had no work for her, and knew of none, so he said, "I have a little boy who tends the geese. She may help him." The boy was called Conrad, and the true bride had to help him to tend the geese. Soon afterwards, the false bride said to the young king, "Dearest husband, I beg you to do me a favor." He answered, "I will do so most willingly." Will-ingy. Noel, Will-ingy. Then send for the knacker, and have the head of the horse on which I rode here cut off. Apparently a knacker must be someone who cuts off horse heads. What a job. For it vexed me on the way. In reality, she was afraid that the horse might tell how she had behaved to the king's daughter. Probably should have done that a little earlier. Then she succeeded in making the king promise that it should be done, and the faithful Falada was to die. This came to the ears of the real princess, and she secretly promised to pay the knacker a piece of gold if he would perform a small service for her. There was a great dark-looking gateway in the town, through which morning and evening she had to pass with the geese. Would he be so good as to nail up Falada's head on it so that she might see him again more than once? The knacker's man promised to do that, and cut off the head and nailed it fast beneath the dark gateway. Early in the morning, when she and Conrad drove out their flock beneath this gate, she said in passing, "Alas, Falada, hanging there!" Then the head answered, "Alas, young queen, how ill you fare! If this your tender mother knew, her heart would surely break in two." Then they went still further out of the town, and drove their geese into the country. And when they had come to the meadow, she sat down and unbound her hair, which was like pure gold, and Conrad saw it and delighted in its brightness, and wanted to pluck out a few hairs. That's a weird request. Then she said, "Blow, blow, thou gentle wind, I say, blow Conrad's little hat away, and make him chase it here and there, until I have braided all my hair, and bound it up again." And there came such a violent wind that it blew Conrad's hat far away across the country, and he was forced to run after it. When he came back, she had finished combing her hair and was putting it up again, and he could not get any of it. Then Conrad was angry and would not speak to her, and thus they watched the geese until the evening, and then they went home. Next day, when they were driving the geese out through the dark gateway, the maiden said, "Alas, Falada, hanging there!" Falada answered, "Alas, young queen, how ill you fare! If this your tender mother knew, her heart would surely break in two." And she sat down again in the field and began to comb out her hair, and Conrad ran and tried to clutch it. So she said in haste, "Blow, blow, thou gentle wind, I say, blow Conrad's little hat away, and make him chase it here and there, until I have braided all my hair," and bound it up again. Then the wind blew, and blew his little hat off his head and far away, and Conrad was forced to run after it. And when he came back, her hair had been put up a long time, and he could get none of it, and so they looked after their geese till evening came. But in the evening, after they had got home, Conrad went to the old king and said, "I won't tend the geese with that girl any longer." "Why not?" inquired the aged king. "Oh, because she vexes me the whole day long." Then the aged king commanded him to relate what it was that she did to him. And Conrad said, "In the morning, when we passed beneath the dark gateway with the flock, there is a sorry horse's head on the wall, and she says to it, well, God dang it, that he's going to repeat the whole thing. And then the king's going to be like, so she said this, and he's going to verbatim repeat it, and I'm going to have to read it a million times. "Alas, Falada, hanging there." And the head replies, "Alas, young queen, how ill you fare. If this your tender mother knew, her heart would surely break in two." And Conrad went on to relate what happened in the goose pasture, and how when there he had to chase his hat. And the aged king commanded him to drive his flock out again next day. And as soon as morning came, he placed himself behind the dark gateway, and heard how the maiden spoke to the head of Falada, and then he too went into the country, and hid himself in the thicket in the meadow. There he soon saw with his own eyes the goose girl and the goose boy bringing their flock, and how after a while she sat down and unplaited her hair, which shone with radiance. And soon she said, "Blow, blow, thou gentle wind, I say, blow Conrad's little that away." Little Liat. Is L and I next to the H or something? No, they're very far away from the H on a keyboard. I don't know how they managed to make that typo. "Blow Conrad's little Liat away, and make him chase it here and there, until I have braided all my hair and bound it up again." Then came a blast of wind and carried off Conrad's hat, so that he had to run far away, while the maiden quietly went on combing and plaiting her hair, all of which the king observed. Then, quite unseen, he went away, and when the goose girl came home in the evening, he called her aside and asked why she did all these things. "I may not tell you that, and I dare not lament my sorrows to any human being, for I have sworn not to do so by the heaven which is above me. If I had not done that, I should have lost my life." He urged her and left her no peace, but he could draw nothing from her. Then said he, "If thou wilt not tell me anything, tell thy sorrows to the iron stove there." And he went away. Then she crept into the iron stove, and began to weep and lament, and emptied her whole heart, and said, "Here am I deserted by the whole world, and yet I am a king's daughter, and a false waiting maid has been by force brought me to such a pass that I have been compelled to put off my royal apparel, and she has taken my place with my bridegroom, and I have to perform menial service as a goose girl. If my mother did but know that, her heart would break." The aged king, however, was standing outside by the pipe of the stove, and was listening to what she said, and heard it. Then he came back again, and bade her come out of the stove. What is this? Come out of the stove. It's a giant walk-in oven stove, and she was in there, inside of it? What? Whatever. And royal garments were placed on her, and it was marvelous how beautiful she was. The aged king summoned his son, and revealed to him that he had got the false bride, who was only a waiting maid, but that the true one was standing there as some goose girl. Can you imagine that? You're like, "Son, you have the wrong wife. You need to hang out with her now. She's your new wife." "All right, Dad." The young king rejoiced with all his heart when he saw her, beauty and youth. "Good thing you're good looking. That last one was ugly." Beauty and youth, and a great feast was made ready, to which all the people and all good friends were invited. At the head of the table sat the bridegroom with the king's daughter at one side of him, and the waiting maid on the other. But the waiting maid was blinded, and did not recognize the princess in her dazzling array. When they had eaten and drunk and were merry, the aged king asked the waiting maid as a riddle, what a person deserved who had behaved in such and such a way to her master, and at the same time related the whole story, and asked what sentence such an one merited. Then the false bride said, "She deserves no better fate than to be stripped entirely naked and put in a barrel which is studded inside with pointed nails, and 2 white horses should be harnessed to it, which will drag her along through one street and another till she is dead." Okay. "It is thou," said the aged king, "and thou hast pronounced their own sentence, and thus shall it be done unto thee." Oops. And when the sentence had been carried out, the young king married his true bride, and both of them reigned over their kingdom in peace and happiness. Wow, what a good story. What have we learned? What have we learned from this story? That lying is bad. Or did anyone lie in this story, actually? I guess, yeah, she lied by... Well, she didn't outright lie. She lied by omission, that one, the consort that pretended. She never straight up said, "I'm the one." She just let everyone believe it. And that's just as bad a crime as direct lying, I guess. Or something. What was up with the whole bit about the hair? What was the point of the hair bit? I guess just so that somebody had an excuse to talk to the king? Because otherwise nobody would have talked to the king if it wasn't for the guy complaining, like, "Give me some of her hair, I want her hair." Yeah, I don't think we really learned anything from this book. Which is completely on theme for this series. There's no point, we're not learning anything, we're not getting anything out of this. That's it. This is a good session, good day. See you next time.